Welcome into Other People's Shoes. As you know, I am your host, Neil Matthews. Really excited that you've chosen to stop by today. Really excited also because today is season premiere day. We are launching our 23rd season today. 23 seasons, 7 years, coming up on 8 years. This season specifically is special. We're going to hit 400 episodes this season. That's not going to happen until August. Stick around because from now till August, we have some amazing shows lined up for you, and I'm really excited to share them with you. We are talking about something that is near and dear to my heart and maybe yours as well. The idea that we have somehow created a list in our mind or maybe written down somewhere, hopefully not, of people that we have not been able to forgive or move on from. And so that's what this season is all about. It's called The List, and it starts right now with my good friend Jessica Lewis to tell us more. Jessica, take it away.
I don't know when I started keeping it. There's no title, no folder, no formal record, but I know exactly who's on it. The list. People who hurt me, betrayed me, walked away when I needed them most. Some names I thought I'd moved on from. Some names I've circled again and again. I used to think the list made me stronger, but if I'm honest, it's made me tired. This season on Other People's Shoes, we're opening up the pages, not to fix it, to admit the list exists, and ask what it's really costing us to keep it. Welcome to Season 23, The List. Now, here's your host, Neil Matthews.
Yes, thank you again, my good friend, Jessica Lewis, welcoming you and I into this amazing season called The List. Now, let me tell you, if I was going to make a list of places and people and maybe even colleges that I wouldn't maybe want to go to, I think Ohio State has got to be up there, number one. Yeah, probably. Maybe like a 1A. No, it's really, let's be honest, it's Duke and then Ohio State. I was a Marine kid. I used to tell people in my church I was an MK. All of them assumed that meant missionary kid. Little did they know that actually meant Marine kid. I just remember as a kid thinking, man, those planes are really high, man, it'd be really fun to do that. And then I thought, no, that's not fun. Nobody wants to actually be in the Air Force. That seems silly. Why would anyone want to do that? It's almost like going to those colleges I just mentioned, like things you don't like so much. I'm not saying I don't like the Air Force. I'm just saying they're not naval aviators like they are in Top Gun. That's really where it's at, right? Maybe somebody could help me disagree or help me maybe understand why the Air Force is so superior. Oh, luckily for us, lo and behold, we have my new friend, Joe Chris. How are you today?
I'm good, sir.
Well, sir, I don't know if I'm warranted of a sir. That seems so respectful and dignified and like I'm important. You are a very good friend of another friend of ours named Tiffany. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, did Tiffany tell you that she had a very awful, terrible experience on a podcast called Other People's Shoes, and that's what made you want to come on here? You also wanted a equally awful, terrible time on Other People's Shoes?
That was exactly it.
That's what she told you? She told you it was just an awful time and you should never, ever tell your story to this guy who somehow lives in Oregon but is obsessed with North Carolina?
No, we just kept crossing paths, and then she just kept telling me I needed to do this podcast. And I kept telling her, well, I'm not that type of guy. I don't do these things. And then as I got to know her more, and she's more like a PR lady for me. She's kind of just directed me where I need to go. I just say God has put people in my life at certain points and times, and I've learned to just go.
Well, it's interesting. I felt like she was your booking agent as well. Like all of my correspondence came through her, and then she would go to you. And it's very much, as you said, PR or agent. Hopefully a cup of coffee at least was purchased for her, or there's like some kind of stipend that awarding her. Maybe it's just a hug.
She's done so much for us, for my nonprofit. Once I got to meet her, she always steps up. And like I said, I guess the people around me told her that I forget everything. I'm not very organized. And she's just kind of taking the ball and like, hey, you got to do this. Hey, you got to do this. And I'm like, okay. Yes, ma'am.
She's a neat lady. I really enjoyed getting to know her story. She was in a previous season. Doesn't change the fact that she still has a very compelling story. Folks should go listen to that. On to you, my friend. Help me with this. I love to ask this question. What size shoes do you wear?
They are 11 and a half. But being that I'm disabled, probably wear about a 10 and a half. But I get them a little bit bigger because it's easier to put on my foot.
I like the 11 and a half. It's easy for me to fit into. I used to wear a 10 and a half when I was in high school. My feet seem to have grown since then. I've heard your feet and your ears never stop growing. I don't know if you've heard that.
That's true.
I don't even know if that's true, but somebody said that and I'm going with it. It's gospel now in my mind. I'm sort of a brand snob. I've been told even a shoe nut, shoe judger. A lot of mean words have come my way as far as my shoe obsession. People have accused me of making fun of them for wearing the wrong type of shoes, but I won't do that to you. I promise. What brand or style of shoe do you like to wear?
Kind of like a lightweight running shoe.
Okay. Is there a brand to it, like an ASIC?
I like the Nikes, and
Okay.
I like Brooks.
There you go.
That's what I got on right now. It's a pair of Brooks. And they last me a good minute because I don't have to run or step on them.
That's true. So people are probably wondering like why you're in a wheelchair. When Tiffany was talking to you about coming on the show, and then you and I had a phone call about your story just to make sure that you're comfortable talking about this. I think most of the time when something like this happens, there's really two options. One, you can give up, crawl into a hole, and just stop living. That is an option. Or two, you can find a way to, I always say, get a flashlight and find your way out of that dark hole. When you think of this idea of a list, or maybe somebody being on a list, been hard to forgive or hard to let go of, any situation that comes to mind for you?
I'm one of them ones that had a chip on my shoulder after I got injured. I would keep that list in my head as you're talking about as motivation to be like, hey, I got to get better. I got to prove people wrong. Mainly the man that had shot me and turned my world upside down. And then everybody else, like doctors, and there was therapists at the time, and people that would tell you that you ain't going to be able to do this. You can't do this. You can't do that. It was just stuff like that that would give me anger at first. And I just started creating that list because I wanted to use it. For me, it was motivation. As I've gotten older and grown, it's not the same. As I learned how to take care of my mental health and everything, it's not the same. Man, when I was young and when I first got injured, there was a big list.
I don't know if anybody caught that because you kind of just snuck that in under the table. You got shot?
Yes, I got shot by a 57-year-old man. I was 23 years old when I was in the United States Air Force.
All right. So you got shot by a man, 57 years old. That individual isn't at the top of your list of people that wronged you or hurt you?
He was for many years. I learned to forgive. I couldn't carry the baggage. It was too rough mentally on me. Sorry. So learned to forgive and let go. And then once I learned to take care of my mental health better, life was way easier and stuff. But at first it was really hard.
Help me understand this.
I was at a bar and grill restaurant. I was stationed at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City. I was 23. I was a jet engine mechanic on the AWACS flying. And right after they bombed the towers, after 9/11, I had gotten orders to go to the war with our airplane. Prior to us leaving, we decided to go out, and I went with some of my supervision to a bar and grill restaurant, a little small place. And while we were in there eating and having some drinks, a fight broke out inside this establishment. I didn't know anything was going on. And when I went to the restroom and I came out to look for my boss, one of my supervision guys, and some of the Air Force guys, people were walking outside of this restaurant bar, going out the door like cattle. Cattle start herd and they follow each other. And I saw that, and I didn't see my Air Force people that were there. So I figured something was going on with some of them. And I went to go outside. And when I got to the door, pushed the door open and took maybe 2 steps, and something hit me in the back. And I fell immediately on my face, my stomach. And then from that point on, I couldn't get up, gasping for air. I had no idea what was going on. I figured there was a fight outside, and I thought I was going to get jumped after that. So I wanted to get up. I was really upset. That adrenaline, fight or flight reflex, they say, that comes in, gives you that superhuman power strength. It is true. I had no concept of what was going on. I just wanted to get up and hit somebody for what had happened to me. I was like, I wanted to see who hit me, what happened. I thought maybe I got hit with a board in the back or a bat because it just stung so bad. That wasn't happening. Next thing you know, my buddies came around and they called me J-Rod. They were like, J-Rod, you're going to be all right. And I'm like, get me up, help me get up. Like, I can't breathe. I was gasping, and they're like, no, you can't get up. And I was madder and madder as the moments went on. And I didn't know what was going on. I just knew somebody had hit me with something. By then, it felt like eternity, but it was minutes. And then the ambulance showed up, the EMTs, and they started talking to me and asking me my name and what I do, to make sure you're still there mentally. And I was very, very non-compliant with everybody because I was angry, and I was like, hey, I know who I am. Just help me get up, and I couldn't feel my legs. But I thought it was going to come back. I didn't understand. And next thing you know, I'm in the ambulance being very angry with them because nobody would tell me what's going on. on. And now that the years have gone by, like you say, the trauma, like I can remember every detail in the trauma of what happened to me. There's things in life that like what I did yesterday, I can't remember and stuff like that. But the trauma I can. It makes no sense in my brain. I just remember hearing I got a gunshot wound to the blah, blah, blah. And I was like, gunshot wound? Gunshot? Oh, that's me. Oh my gosh, that's me. And I went from Superman to I started crying. I was upset. I'm like, I'm going to die right here. This is how life ends. Excuse me. At that point, it was first little flip phones that came out back in the day because I'm old. And I remember trying to grab my phone out of my pocket because I wanted to call my mom. I said, man, if I'm going to die right here, I want to call my mom and tell her I love her. My dad. The lady grabbed it. She wasn't having it. Told her some mean words. And I thought I was dying right there. I thought that was the end of life. Every breath you took then was like, this could be my last. And I kept thinking that. And I kept thinking like, all right, you gotta fight for this. You gotta stay awake. You gotta stay awake. You gotta stay awake. Got to the hospital and I remember being in the room and they started cutting me open and stuff. And it was forever until they gave me some pain medicine. Next thing you know, I woke up and it was like a storybook. There was a room full of military people and my mom and dad were next to me. And when I saw my mom and dad, I knew like, this is not a dream. This is bad. And I went to get up and I couldn't feel my legs. The doctor came in and said, hey, Joe Chris, you're going to be paralyzed, T6 level injury. You took a gunshot wound to the back. And I'm like, gunshot wound? Like, what was happening? And then the Oklahoma City Highway Patrol came in and told me what kind of happened from all the stories. And he says, Mr. Rodriguez, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. You took a random bullet in the back. And it didn't make no sense to me. And at that point, my life was turned upside down.
Wow. You care if I call you J-Rod?
Yeah, you call me J-Rod.
Well, J-Rod, man, I don't know if I really believe this in my heart. I know there have been times in my life where I was at the right place at the right time. I've also been at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yes.
It's amazing how that works. And people are always like, oh, it's random. Life is just random. It's chaos. It's void. Find $1 on the ground. Somebody once said, oh, it's because God knew you needed the $1. Well, why didn't he give me $100? Because he probably knew I needed 100 rather than the $1. I don't know if I'm your family, how I forgive the guy that took away your life.
It was hard for everybody. And I think when everybody goes through trauma, something like this, like what I went through, getting shot by somebody. I remember I had an uncle that came in and saw me at the hospital and he was just so upset and angry. He was like, man, I'm going to go get this guy.
Yeah.
That's street stuff. You can't do that. But I could see how upset he was. And me, myself. I never got to saw the guy when I got shot. So I wanted to see who it was. I wanted to be like, dude, you did this to me. You have all this anger and just hate and just, God, when it first initially happens, it's hard on you mentally.
I think the burning question is, did they ever find him?
He shot one of my bosses that same night. And after he shot him, that's when he pointed the gun and just shot 2 rounds. And I took a random bullet in the back. The Oklahoma City Highway Patrol told me after he did that, him and his son was, I think, around 35 at the time. They just backed up in their pickup because it was out in the parking lot. And he drove down the street and he went to his house. And everybody knew who he was at this small establishment. He was a regular there at this place. So immediately everybody started, hey, this is who it was. The Highway Patrol man that came to speak to me was the man that went and arrested him that night. Because he made it a point to be military guys too, and that we were fixing to go to the war. You know, we were going to deploy to Oman. He told me he made it a point that he arrived over there and he went to the gentleman's house. And the gentleman was sitting on a recliner with the door open, waiting for them, like no big deal. They arrested him and it was nonchalant, like, hey, here you go, cuff me and go in. He came to speak to me at the hospital and he was the one that gave me the news. He told me exactly kind of what happened.
Have you ever had any contact with the gentleman that shot you? And I use the word gentleman loosely.
Yes, I didn't. I was in the hospital for about 4 months. I went to rehab and started to learn to live. We couldn't have court trial because the war was going on. And all these other Air Force guys that were there that were involved in this thing, they were all deployed. So the gentleman got to stay out for 3 years until they could finally connect with everybody and get everybody to have a court case. I remember the anxiety, man, the madness of like, man, I'm finally going to see this gentleman. I'd seen a picture, of course, you know, when we were getting ready to go to trial, but I didn't get to see him personally who was. I drove up to Oklahoma City for court for his trial. Me and my boss, I'm going to call him my boss, and my friend went in there with his wife. They let us see because we were victims. We got to stand there, and I wanted to hear the whole thing. I wanted to hear from what happened from point A to point B to the end. Man, I got to see him, and he didn't show no remorse. He could care less what had happened to both of us. He had shot both of us and changed our lives. And so I think from that kind of point on, being able to see that it didn't bother him none, it really made me be like, man, Joe Chris, like, I can't hold on to this anger and this madness toward this man, because if he don't care, why am I going to make a big deal about it? It was just bringing me down mentally. It was hard, but yeah, I got to finally see him at court.
I think that makes it worse that he just doesn't care. He didn't care when they arrested him. He didn't care at the court hearing. Again, your perspective. The police officer who's sharing that with you, that's his perception as well. As I kind of led with before you started into your story, you really have a couple of choices. In my mind, it boils down to two. You can get busy living or you can get busy dying. It's from Shawshank Redemption, one of my favorite movies. You chose to get busy living. Where did you find that strength to do that? Where did that come from? I'm guessing, and again, I'm not trying to like throw shade on the Air Force, maybe a little bit, because again, Marine kid. Didn't like find that in the Air Force. Where did J-Rod find that?
I like the Marine bias. I like that.
Be aware, it may keep coming.
I'm ready for it. I think for me personally, I think I was always outgoing and kind of like to do things. I think really once I got hurt and my road was upside down, I was so angry and upset and I wanted to walk again, because everybody that gets injured like me, whether it be a car wreck, a motorcycle wreck, a job injury, gunshot wounds, they fall. Everybody's first thing when you meet them in the hospital is like, dude, I'm going to walk again. I'm going to walk again. I'm going to overcome this. Nobody really understands the severity of a spinal cord injury. And I didn't understand that at the time. And I remember I was so blessed with the United States Air Force took care of me so well that my goal was like, I'm going to be back in uniform in 2 years. I'm going to be turning wrenches. But I didn't understand that, Joe Chris, nothing's going to heal you. And my mindset, the more I lifted weights, the more physical therapy I did, the more I just pounded on my body, I was going to try to heal myself. And it wasn't working. And I just kept grinding and trying to get better and trying to get better. And I guess to answer your question, I think maybe I just had it in me, and then I just think it was just something that clicked. I've always wanted to prove people wrong.
I just pulled up your guys' website, One Chair at a Time, the nonprofit you're working with. And there's this really nice bio, really nice picture of you. And I see your name on the screen here. It says Joe Chris Rodriguez. That's your full name. Well, I'm an abbreviation kind of guy. I think they're called acronyms, where you take the first letter of something and then you build it into something else. I don't know if you're familiar with those. I like to do that. It's how my brain works. It's weird. I'm looking at your name, JCR, if I were going to shorten it down even further. When I see the name JC, I can't help but think of Jesus Christ. I'm not swearing, I'm saying his title. The R, though, I know that Jesus does this amazing thing called redemption. In fact, I used to actually have a bracelet before it broke. I'm really mad that it broke. It said redemption on it. North Carolina, I'm a huge Tar Heels fan. They lost to Villanova on a last-second shot, and it broke my heart. I know it's just a sports team. It's not even comparing to your situation or what you walked through. But the next year, they went back to the championship. The next year, they went back, and they actually had a group chat with all the players. I've heard this because I've actually interviewed some of the players that were on that team. They're like, yeah, that existed. It was a group chat, and the title of the group chat was, you guessed it, redemption. They wanted a second chance. They had that horrific loss to Villanova, which, by the way, I can't even watch the highlight without wanting to punch something. A puppy, perhaps. I wore that bracelet for a long time that said redemption. And for me, every time I looked at it, no, it did not remind me of the championship game that they would end up winning the next year. It reminded me that Jesus has redeemed me. He's given me redemption. He's given me a second chance. And why would I want to waste that? And so, J-Rod, I'm taking your name Rodriguez, nothing against your family. I'm sure they're fantastic people, but I'm going to change that to Joe Chris. Redemption. What do you think of that when you hear that?
I like it. It's always been hard for me to be, once I got hurt, and then I feel like God is just like, my grandma always used to tell me God kept me around for a reason when I first got shot. And it made no sense to me. Me and my grandma were very close. We would joke around, and she'd tell me that all the time before she passed away when I first got hurt. And it would make me so mad, because I'm like, Grandma, why would God want me to live like this? Like, I have no use in my bowel and bladder. Like, I can't walk. I can't do these things. I can't do everything I could. The years went by, and was training and doing my thing. And I started the One Chair at a Time from the ground up. I wanted to give back and help kids with physical disabilities. That's when it really said to me that, like, man, Grandma was right. God kept me around for a reason.
I think what you're doing now is you realize your purpose is not to stay stuck. Who again thinks about, once they're out of that darkness, to then flip that on its head and say, well, look around my world. Who can I help? Who needs some help? Who can I go and impact? Who can I give redemption to? Who can I give a second chance to? Starting a nonprofit from scratch, that's no easy task. Forgiving this person that changed your life, that realistically wrecked your life, that's no easy task. I don't know, Grandma. She sounds pretty wise, J-Rod. For her to speak wisdom into your life, to say, listen, he kept you for a reason.
You're right. But when you're going through that mental madness that doesn't make sense, he said, you pointing out, I felt like I found a purpose. It was like a whole collection of things. And so like when I say these are my opinions and my beliefs, it was like I got into adaptive sports and I was doing powerlifting and then triathlons, and then we started doing Olympic distance and half Ironman races. That's when we started the nonprofit. I started it. I surrounded myself with just people that cared, that were involved in my care. And like I said, I just feel like God has put people in my life at the right time now. And like Miss Tiffany, when we started the nonprofit, it was the same. It was just people coming up to me. That there was a Navy attorney that did my paperwork pro bono, things like that. And so it kind of just took off.
I mean, Jesus was amazing. He probably could have done it all by himself. He really could have. He's God. He can do whatever he wants. For some odd, weird reason that I will never understand, he picked 12 dudes. They were not schooled men. They were fishermen. They were tax collectors. They were the rejected, disenfranchised. They were the whatevers. And he used those guys, those knuckleheads, as I often lovingly call them, to change the world. J-Rod, maybe he's using you now in a similar fashion to change our world, to make people realize that, yes, what happened to you sucks. I mean, it just sucks. Call a spade a spade. You could have stopped. You could have been like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm just going to go crawl in my hole and die. You didn't. How did you forgive him, the gentleman that shot you? How did that happen? Or has it happened?
It did happen. After we went to court, when I could hear his testimony and I could hear him speak, and he cared less. It was no big deal to him. He was going to go to prison for a long time. It didn't seem like there was remorse because he never did say anything to us like, hey, I apologize, I was in the wrong or anything, which is totally fine. I spent the next years of my life before I got into active sports drinking, partying because I got medically retired. Financially, I've been blessed. And I was using that, I think, to cope with the PTSD because I didn't know I had PTSD for the first, I want to say 10 years. And I know people probably hear this and be like, well, how do you not know? Well, back then when I got hurt, it wasn't on the TV. It wasn't on the commercials every time you turn the TV on. Hey, mental health, mental health. And I was in that military when I was told, you're going to man up, you're going to get better. And I'm going to keep my emotions to myself and my feelings to myself. And so I kind of just learned the hard way. I think the first time I really forgave him, and then I wanted to move on with my life and get better. When I look back at it now, how things have fallen in place in my life. Like I said, God has just done these things. Because, for example, I was probably 5 or 6 years into injury, and I was at this gym. I still worked out there. And there was this man there that used to talk to me and be like Mr. Miyagi, to me, the Karate Kid. And one day he catch me in the hallway, and I really didn't know who he was. And he just said, hey, what do you do? And I told him I was retired from the Air Force. And he says, hey, I need you to come to the hospital. And I was like, okay. And we're in this little hallway. And he says, come to BSA. And I'm like, okay. And it was so odd because I didn't ask questions. I just said, okay. And he tells me a time and I leave. The day I go up there, I drive myself up there and I'm in the parking lot. And I told my mom, I'm like, hey, Mom, I'm supposed to go see this doctor at BSA. I don't really know why he wants to visit with me. I just said, okay. So I get there and I go inside and he's waiting at the entry door to this big hospital. He's a Catholic priest. He's a chaplain. And I was like, oh my gosh, like you're a priest. He says, yes. And I was like, I thought you were a doctor. And he says, no, I'm Father Jose. Well, this makes no sense to me. Like, what am I doing here? So he's real like Mr. Miyagi. He don't say much to me. He would leave me like little nuggets. He's like, come on with me. Come with me. And we go down the hallway and go into the chaplain office. And he says, you want coffee? And I'm like, yeah. So he's getting me coffee. And my brain is going 100 miles an hour. I'm like, what am I here for? And he's like, oh, you're good. You're good. And he gives me my cup. And he's like, come with me. And he rushes me out. We're going to the elevator. And he's making a little small talk, but he's not saying much to me. So my brain is like, yo, what am I doing here? We're going up the elevator. And we get to the hallway, get to this room. And he stops. All right, you wait right here. And I was like, okay. So I got an idea now. We're here to see somebody because I'm waiting in this hallway. And he goes in and I hear him. He says, hey, he talks to this lady. I can hear her voice. He says, hey, remember my friend? My friend is here to see you. And he's going to visit with you. And he walks out and he looks at me and he's like, okay, do your thing. And I was like, do my thing? Like, what are you talking about? And I looked in there and I wrote in and it was a lady. She's laying in the bed and she is staring at me and she starts crying. And she's like, are you Joe Chris? And I said, yes, ma'am, I am. And she's like, hey, how are you? And she's like, you look so normal. And I said, well, I am normal. And she's like, oh my, I was in a car wreck and she's paralyzed. And so she's crying and telling me, hey, I'm asking her, hey, what happened? And we're having a conversation. And I'm there for like a long time, probably an hour and a half. And it was one of those moments in life, just didn't feel like it was me. Like I'm answering this lady's questions. I had never done this before. I had never like visited with anybody that was disabled, like in this kind of setting. And, and I'm just telling her, hey, life's going to be good. You do this, you can do that, you can do this. And we're talking. And they come in to give her meds and her dinner. I'm like, all right, well, I better go because you're going to get your meds and your dinner and I don't want to interfere. I get to the doorway and he is there in the hallway still waiting for me. And he's like, oh, you did such a good job. You did a good job. And I'm like, sir, dude, I was really upset with Father Jose, with this gentleman, because I felt like I didn't know what's going on. He put me in this situation. Should I be there? Who am I to come talk to this person? I had a million things going through my head. So we're going down the hallway and I said, Father Jose, why'd you bring me here? And he's like, God brought you here. I'm telling you, God brought you here. And that made me more mad at the time. Why do you say that? It didn't make no sense to my brain at the moment. And I said, okay, yeah. And I kind of played it off. And I didn't talk to him much. Got in the elevator and I left because my brain was going 100 miles an hour. Like I had so many thoughts, like fresh in the injury I feel. I got to my pickup and I'm a grown man. I call my mom and I'm crying. I'm like, Mom, I just talked to this lady. She's paralyzed. Who am I to talk to her? Who am I to say I can help her? It was 100 things. And at that moment again, it was like, man, Grandma was right. God had a plan for me. And ever since then, I was invited to the local 2 big hospitals. They call me when people get hurt. I get to come in and say, hey, this is who I am. Don't do this. Don't do this. Do this. Do this. I just took off from there. At that moment in time, it didn't make sense to me. But as the years gone by and I've learned so much, it's different now.
Well, J-Rod, imagine put yourself back in that hallway right before you go in. Father Jose's there and I'm there too. Which of the two of us, between you and I, do you think is going to give her more comfort? You or me? Let's just call a spade again.
Yeah, me.
Right. I can't relate with her and what she's gone through. I don't know the struggle. I don't know the word, the long hours that it's going to take. I haven't experienced that. I've not been in her shoes. You have.
It makes sense now that I've done it so much. At the time it didn't. And then I think what made it even more, like you say, your list that we were talking about when we started this thing. I had a list of just so many people that I felt like motivated me and wanted to prove them wrong. And there was also when I started being able to visit people in the hospital and my nonprofit took off, it's like now I'm at a point in life where like they call me and I'll drop what I'm doing to be there because when I got hurt, I didn't have anybody come talk to me. I had one gentleman that came, occupational therapist set it up, and I had a million questions I wanted to ask this guy. He came in, he was really nice. He showed me what he drove because that was a big thing. Can I drive a pickup? I didn't want to drive a minivan. I asked him, can you have family? And he says, yeah, I have a wife and I have kids. And I'm like, okay. It was like 10 minutes. And he's like, all right, well, I got to go. And he left. I remember that feeling that I had inside that like he had left. Man, I had so much that like I wanted to talk to this gentleman, so many more questions. And the OT lady was like, hey, how did it go? I said, good. I said, he like left pretty quick. And I understand he has a life. Thank you for coming. I felt like there was so much more that I needed to learn from that point on. When I visit people and I'll drop what I'm doing, if they want me there an hour, I'm going to be there an hour. If they want me there for 2, I'm going 2. If they let me come back, I'm coming back the next day. I'm bringing snacks. I'm bringing meals. And I'm going to come hang out. And I'm going to be your buddy. I'm going to try to help you. I wish I had somebody help me down that journey of the drinking and don't do this and don't do that as a mentor. And I didn't have that and I needed that. Some people don't, some people do, but I feel like it would have had an impact. And I've seen what it's done with our program to be able to meet people and say, hey, don't do this, don't do that, do this, do this. And number one, like your mental health. Don't be ashamed of saying, hey, I'm depressed. Don't be ashamed to say, hey, I'm scared. That was my biggest thing.
You made me cry, J-Rod. You made me cry.
Sorry, man.
You made me get a little weepy. That doesn't happen.
Sorry about that.
Nothing to be sorry about, man. You took the most painful moment in your life and you flipped it on its head and you made sure no one would ever feel what you felt. Now, I don't know still how I feel about this because people pushed on it and told me that I'm wrong. And I'm going to say I'm still undecided. When I first started my show 7 years ago, I had a view of suicide as being selfish, as one of the most selfish acts on the planet that you can do. It's very selfish, self-centered. I've since talked to moms who have lost kids to suicide. I've talked to people who attempted suicide and somehow survived. I don't know how I feel still. I'm undecided. Was that ever on the table?
Yeah, it was. When I first got my role turned upside down, I was so motivated. All I wanted to do is wear a uniform again. I wanted to be in the Air Force. I wanted to turn wrenches and work on planes. And when I got home and I had to learn to live again and learn to get dressed, and learn to shower, and everything took me so long, and everything was so frustrating, and I was so mad and angry. I was on so much pain medicine and all these other pills that you're taking. During the day, you put on that smile. Hey, this is going to be okay. I got this. What I need to do to get better. At the evening, it would kick me in the butt. Even in the hospital at night, it would kick me in the butt. I would lay there and I would cry on a pillow, and I would yell and I'd scream. I'd just be so mad and angry. And I'm like, why does God want me to live like this? This is no way anybody should live. Why is life? I'm worthless. You feel like you're a burden to everybody because you need help to do things at first. And I felt worthless, and nobody's going to love me. I'm never going to be loved again. I've always had a pistol beside my bed for safety, and I would sit there and I'd be like, I have a bottle of morphine pills and I have a gun. Which way is the easiest route? And I would cry and I would think about it. And then it would be, I call it the monster in my head. It would go one way and then go the other way. Go one way and go the other way. Like, Joe Chris can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that because this is worthless. Who wants to live like this? Am I going to spend the next years of my life in this chair? And every night, and for a long time, I would go over those thoughts and like, I could end this real quick. But then I would think of my family, your friends, and you're just like, that ain't the route to go, man. So I would man up, and the next day, back to the grind, back to try to get better. It was in my head a lot of times, and I wouldn't tell anybody. I would keep all emotions, all my madness in. And then finally, as the years went by, I tell people when I meet them, like, you got to vent. You got to go to mental health, man. You can't keep that thing in, because if not, you're going to be like Joe Chris. I was a ticking time bomb. Like, I'm ready to explode. There was times at physical therapy, like, I exploded on everybody, and I was cussing, and they're a blessing in my life because they kept me in the right direction. Even when I gave them lip and attitude, like, they'd be like, hey, dude, I gotta calm down. Don't talk like that with that tone. Don't be cussing in here at the therapy. They're all still good friends to me today and come to my nonprofit stuff. But like I said, I've been blessed, but yes, I did. I'm not gonna lie to you and say I didn't. It was hard. It took me many years to finally admit that I had mental health issues and I had PTSD. And when I finally started to get a hold of that and use the VA for its proper services, and I got a service dog trained, they can open doors and do all kinds of things. Basically, all I need that dog for is to yell out and say bad words to the dog, and the dog loves me. I can tell the dog, I hate my life today. I hate being disabled, and I can yell and cuss at the dog when I get mad. The dog just like, hey, man, you got a bone in your pocket? I love you. I love you.
What's the dog's name?
This one's name's Noki. My first one's name was Carly, and that was the one that kind of really changed my life. You view suicide as it's weak, it's easy way out.
Well, selfish, yeah. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Selfish. And for me, I was the same. I did. And then when I thought about it, life changed. And then when I saw, especially military guys with service dogs, I always thought they were weak-minded. I'm like, they're weak. Like, you can't handle your own business. You need a dog. They're weak-minded. And so whenever I meet people and I tell my story, I crow. I say, I'm totally wrong. If you use that dog for its purposes, that service animal, dude, they can help you so much. I do. I'm one to always admit when I'm wrong or I learn something. Life's crazy.
Tell me about your nonprofit. If people are interested in knowing more about it, how they can help, then its name. It's a nonprofit, riding on and working off of donations, generosity of folks. And I'm sure you've helped a lot of folks in the Amarillo area and maybe beyond. Tell me about the nonprofit.
The nonprofit was initially started to provide sport wheelchairs for kids with physical disabilities so they can do like Paralympic sports. Because I was racing triathlons and the VA was giving my equipment. And when I saw the price of it, I saw how much thousands and thousands of dollars. I went down south and I met Texas Parasports, and I met them, and they do kind of what we do as a nonprofit. And I came back to the Emerald area and said, man, I need to start one of these because these kids with disabilities, they need equipment. They should be able to do sports at a high competitive level. Surrounded myself with people, Warrior and a Treasure, and all these people were kind of just in my life. It took off. I thought the national first was going to buy equipment for kids, and that was it. It turned in more to a mentorship and a community. And I could say we built a community here in the Texas Panhandle. That first year we bought 4 chairs at $3,000 a chair. And then the next year we bought more. And now we're going on, I think, our 14th year of nonprofit. And we started an adult group program that does recreational stuff. I've got 32 adults now. I got 8 active kids that do the Paralympic sports. My adults mainly hang out community-wise, and that's when I really met Miss Tiffany. We're writing a book right now because it's always been a goal of mine, kind of going back to the hospital setting. When I got hurt, after the years and I started meeting people and making friends, I call them the homies, all the wheelchair men and women, the homies. I started meeting more of them. And it was a goal of mine that, like, whenever I wanted to put a book together of all kind of different races, where different people were financially, veterans, civilians, all different levels of injuries. And I wanted to put them all in a little small book that could tell their story. And that way, whenever people got hurt and Northwest calls me, BSA, the hospitals call me, I have it in my backpack. I can roll up. Because a lot of people, some want to meet you and some don't. Some want you to get the hell out of their room, right? And I get that.
Yeah.
But I know what they're dealing with that night. I know the emotions at night, the trauma is getting to them. If I can have that and I can put it on their little table where their medicines are at and say, hey, I'm Joe Chris, here you go. I wouldn't have read it during the day when people are looking at me, but I know at night when I was going through the madness, I would have been like, glanced through it. And if I would have saw like somebody around my age, same kind of thing, I would have opened it and read it. And hopefully that would have the goal is to help people and to get them in the right path and start good habits, what I call it, instead of bad habits. And so that's kind of what the nonprofits also helped us do. I mean, we're doing that right now, but we have a big adult group and we have a good sized kid group. I cover the whole Texas Panhandle. And I've been blessed because some nonprofits, they say they're nonprofits, but the director gets paid, the assistant director gets paid. There's marketing money. 100% of every little penny goes back to these kids and these adults. Because I've been blessed financially by the government, by the Air Force getting hurt, medically retired. And I told myself the nonprofit ever became about making money, and money was the biggest issue, I'm walking away.
What's the website? Where can people learn more about it?
OneChairAtAtime.org. Our Facebook is the one that's really updated every Tuesday because Tiffany's doing stories for us on Tuesdays. Kendra is posting them on Wednesday or Thursdays. Kendra was a female high school kid that got hurt in a car wreck. And now she's doing our social media and runs all our social media stuff. Kind of her way of giving back.
So there's this wonderful story that I heard years ago that truly impacted my life. This old man and his dog are on a beach, and he sees the dog digging in the sand, and he realizes the dog is digging at a starfish. He notices that the beach is covered with sea stars, and he sees this figure off in the distance throwing something and realizes it's an 8-year-old little boy, and he's throwing things into the ocean. And as he's throwing them, he stops the boy and he says, hey, little guy, what's going on here? Well, you see, sir, these sea stars need to get back in the ocean. If they don't, they're going to die. He's like, guy, you're going to save all these sea stars like there's thousands of them here. And the little boy throws another one. Then he picks up one and he kind of looks at it for a second, really examining it thoroughly. And he throws it back in the ocean and goes, you're probably right, sir. Just made a difference with that one. I feel like that's you. You might not be able to save every single person that's been affected by an accident that needs a wheelchair. You might not be able to save them all. There's a lot of them, I'd imagine. You can make a difference with one.
I don't ever look at it that way. It's hard for me to have so many great wheelchair homie friends, as I call them, kids, adults. And when I started the nonprofit and we started helping people and you hear things like that, for me, it's always hard. I don't want to ever think that I'm better than anybody or I'm Mr. Wheelchair guy or I can, save the world and help people. Kind of doesn't make sense. But in my brain, it's just like I'm just being me and doing my thing.
Well, let's play a game together. What do you say? Do you want to play a game? Does that sound fun to you?
Yeah, go Blue Devils.
Wow.
Did you catch that?
I did. I don't know what to do with that.
It was the same as the Marine.
Well, is that what it is? You're getting me back for all the Marine jokes? Is that what that was? Is that what that was? That's what that was?
That's all it was, brother.
That seems hurtful. Those are hurtful. Those are hurtful words.
I love your loyalty though.
You have no idea. I have a tattoo on my arm of the
you're
ram.
Hardcore. Did you go to school there?
So that's a funny story. I've been to the school there. No, I never took a class there. I'll just say that. I've been there, but I've never taken a class there.
I'm a big Oklahoma Sooner fan.
Are you? Yeah. Brian Bosworth was my favorite Oklahoma Sooner because, he went on to play for Seattle.
People say, well, I didn't go to school there, but I was stationed there. And I tell people I left a piece of my soul there in Oklahoma.
All right. Well, this is a game we call Heel Hustle. I wonder where it got its name from. Zach is going to tell us more about that.
Now it's time to play the fastest growing game in the podcast world. As you know, it's called Heel Hustle. Today our guest will try to answer all 6 of these questions in 60 seconds or less to win a prize from our prize closet. Audience, feel free to play at home. Let's put 60 seconds on that clock. Ready, set, hustle!
The game begins in 3, 2, 1.
All right, J-Rod. Childhood celebrity crush was who?
Britney Spears.
All right. Secret talent.
I don't know.
Person you would trade places with for a year.
Tom Brady.
It's a good choice. Weirdest job you've ever had.
Working in the fields.
Okay. Biggest risk you've ever taken.
Starting a nonprofit.
Okay. And the big one. Who needs a hug from you today and why?
I don't know.
You don't know who needs a hug from J-Rod today? Come on.
I'm not a hugger.
Wow. I don't know if we can count that as a win. You didn't answer 2 of our questions. But anyway.
This first one stumped me. I'm like, oh, like secret talent. What do I say there?
I don't know. That's why it's a secret. I'm really good at arm wrestling. I don't know. I don't even know what my secret talent is, to tell you the truth.
This is my first podcast I've ever done. So it's
well,
been
hopefully
an honor.
it's not your last.
It's been an honor. I just want to say thank you.
Well, you can't steal my thunder. I was going to say that. I was going to say those things. You have to wait your turn.
It's very hard, especially like now over here. It's in the morning.
Yeah.
All night. Mentally, it was like my brain's going 100 miles an hour, the little monster in my head. And then to wake up, I left the house being like really early to fire that little monster up and dig back into the trauma. You do a great job of helping me just go through the flow. So thank you.
You stole all my thunder. I was going to tell you that I have tremendous amount of respect for you because of that reason. All those things you just said, that you could have easily stayed in bed today. You could have easily said, the heck with this. I don't want to walk through that again. I don't want to think about those moments again. I don't want to think about that night again. I don't even want to think about that guy again. I'm not going to tell you that you should give your monster a name. I do have one to consider. When I hear the name Grayson or Hurley, I don't like those names. They're former Duke players. You could probably imagine that.
Oh, I love that one.
I had to work it in. J-Rod, I want to say truly, it's an honor to meet you virtually, either it be on this side of the world or maybe even in the next in heaven. We get to meet, and I know you're not a hugger. I'd probably hug you, dude. I think your ability to not give up is a tremendous amount of character on your part. I think more people need to know that there is hope, and you're bringing it one chair at a time. I appreciate you, man.
No, thank you. I'll send you a copy of this little book when we ever get it done. Like I said, it's been great, kind of nerve-wracking. Like I told Tiffany, there's a part of my brain that I don't understand how other people's stories help people so much. It really does. But when you're in your shoes, as you would say, when you're in those shoes and you can actually help somebody, it means the world. When you're the one doing it, I don't ever want to forget who I am or where I came from. And I always just wanted to be humble and just be like, hey, I'm just doing this to help people, if that makes sense. Like you said, being in those shoes, it's like, and when she told me the name of the podcast and I got to see it, I'm like, this is pretty cool.
I'm excited every week. I get to sit with somebody, try to walk where they've walked. And that's why we asked the question in the beginning, what shoes you're in. People think it's lame. In my mind, what was it like in that moment? Could I forgive the guy? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I could. I know I'm called to. I know my faith tells me to. My heart might tell me to, but my head doesn't, or vice versa. My head might, but my heart might not. And I think it says a lot. You cannot hold on to that. And I know it's taken a long time to get there. All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike. I know. You know the sound. I know this doesn't even compare. When I was a kid, my brother actually shot me in the head with a BB gun. I was on a 3-wheeler, and I remember getting shot in the back of the head with a BB gun. I had like a little goose egg on the back of my head. Not even close comparison to J-Rod. But I remember I was pissed. I was so mad. Like, I wanted to kill my brother. I was so mad. There's a time for mad. There's a time for sad. And then there's a time to move on. I have moved on from that moment, I think. But maybe for you, you can put yourself in the moment that you still can't move on from. What's it gonna take? How long is it gonna take? And listen, I know there's some stuff that has just rocked people's worlds. I don't know what it is, but there's gotta be a moment where you can finally say once and for all, I'm done with it. I'm done with that. Shift delete, it's gone. And maybe that's this week. Maybe that's the week you say, okay, I'm finally done. I'm burning the list. I'm burning it down. I'm not going back to that. If you do, let me know. I'd love to know. OPSpodcast.com is a great place to let me know. That's home base for us. You know the socials. They're there. We're at OPS Podcast Show under Facebook, Instagram, and X. And of course, you know where we'll be next week. That's right. We're going to be right back here next week. Before we go, remember this. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Again, I want to thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned till next week. As I already said, we're going to be right back here as we walk in other people's shoes.